Good afternoon. So let's hope we'll get more interest, but I can dance, sing, whatever. I can bring people here to the room. I can go on the street, but I think it's busy there. So let me focus on this 15 minutes on a few things. You know, we already discussed today morning, which I think would be easier for me to jump through some parts of my thoughts and dots. You know, when I discuss with colleagues, you know, what would be interesting input to this session for you, but also for me, you know, I came here early morning also to get the input from you because I am in this triple role almost here because as a citizen, I should start from here, and the potential patient, also as a director responsible for also pharma regulations, you know, involved in e-health as well very strongly. At the same time, I am the member of the board of IMI since the beginning of this organization. So I'm also interested to hear, you know, what you can advise us as a board to do with this in this complicated field. So morning session was really very rich. My focus will be on few dots. I am not going to cover all dots I have in mind because I don't think we have time. But maybe in discussion we can try to define them. So just few of them I brought to my presentation, just put them in 3 boxes: authorization, monitoring, and patient information. We discussed today quite a lot already about consequence of pharmacovigilance regulation, but I would like also to say a few words about this. So what is this presentation also about? It's about the infrastructure we are building in Europe. And as I discussed with Miguel recently, you know, this meeting is also for us to know what we are doing, because sometimes, you know, we are also learning through such meetings, you know, the things are there, and we have to see how we can be connected. So clinical portal and database, as maybe some of you remember, there was call from patient groups for European Parliament, but also from industry to modernize our way of doing clinical trials in Europe. The current regulations, current directive was differently imported to the national laws, which created a lot of problems with the final way, you know, of doing this. But of course, you know, one of the critical infrastructure we needed for doing this is IT infrastructure. And we call this EU Clinical Trials Portal, which is built not just for industry-based or sponsor research and clinical trials, but also academia. So it was triggered by regulation and there's other construction. I mean, the work is going on. Unfortunately, we are already late with the introduction of this portal to the system. And the problem is the whole regulatory framework will move when the portal is triggered. So we're very dependent on the success of this IT project. So a number of views like single entry, harmonized procedures to be assessed by member states, let's say communication between sponsor and member states, and also facilitate access to information by public. You most probably have heard often debate about the transparency of clinical trials, access to the raw data, critics about the way we authorize medicines. Researchers, the research community would like to know more about the process. Patients also would like to understand better, you know, why we decide that medicine A or B or C is good for them. So this is also a quite tricky way how to make this transparency possible. We made some first steps during kind of internal rules and procedures in EMA system, but these regulations made very clearly that information should be available after authorization. The second big project, which was triggered by pharmacovigilance regulations, we call this more kind of nickname, Article 57 database. This article triggered the submission of thousands or millions of data from industry because of this article, and this also allowed us to define how many products we have on the market. So those who are not familiar with this area, I can tell you that according to this database, which we believe is almost 100% sure, we have around 500,000 products on the European market. So they have to be monitored, 500,000. And of course the problem is, as we say, market, we have single market, but at the same time, of course, we have national authorizations. So we may say we have all 28 plus Norway, Iceland and Iceland, which Iceland and Liechtenstein, they joined this system. So the critical question is for EMA now, how to move to the next phase of building this database and using this database for bigger project. And now we are discussing about a so-called portal, European Medicine Portal, which allowed really interaction, with patients, doctors, and this is again big important base for the interconnectivity. A lot of discussion was written morning about interoperability, and of course the quality of this database, the way it can be used by all this is critical. The next challenge which is coming, and nothing decided, but when you see the study presented to us by Nivel, this debate was triggered a number of years ago by the question how many information we should provide to patients. So everyone is familiar with the leaflets we have in the package of medicines, which is kind of almost contract between patients and producer of medicines. What is in, what are the side effects, what are the indications, so on. So this the study, as you can imagine, they show that we have to look for other optimal way of communicating, and one of the options is electronic leaflet. Easy to say, from legal point of view, more challenging. But the report is recommending this. Study is recommending this. Now we are producing as a commission report, which we hope to publish in coming weeks. And this report has to take into consideration the question of electronic leaflets. It looks like we can recommend this. I don't like to make this as a public statement, but from the studies it's also clear that we cannot finish the life of printed leaflets because they are simply part of the regulation. But existence of electronic leaflets will be possible, parallel. And of course, next question will be, how they could be constructed. What is a kind of PDF form, or they could be more interactive with number of support tools for patients. This we have to discuss as next step. This is the next dot in the system, which is the biggest investment, I think, in IT in this field in coming years. Safety features is a part of the bigger ways of fighting with falsified medicines. So we were obliged to produce the safety features system, which is based on so every pack of medicines they are prescribed will bear this code with all kinds of additional numbers, and they all will be stored in the national and connected to the European hub. Already you can see from this slide, complexity of this exercise. But of course, the next complexity is coming when we see the way we are doing this. This is one of the biggest PPP projects in Europe now. So industry, together with other stakeholders responsible for the distribution of medicines, both generic industry and innovative industry, are building up this portal and repository database. And of course, you can see how this is going to be checked in the system. But of course, when this individual pack is appearing in the system, some member states are thinking more and more, how we can use this in the healthcare system, not just as a way to track the falsification, but also for epidemiology, pharmacoepidemiology reasons, safety, of course, region, and so on. So it's a challenging exercise. We have it looks like 2 years more to finish, or 2.5 years to finish this project, but because of complexity, because of the sizes of operation, we may see a lot of still challenges ahead of us. So far, so good. Touch wood. If this will work out, I think we will get one important dot in the system. Again, don't forget we have this. We're supposed to have operational Article 57 database, this repository system, new way of doing clinical trials as well. The next challenge for us in the Falsified Medicine Directive was to introduce so-called online pharmacy system, which a logo which is supposed to help identify those institution or pharmacy in the system. They are authorized by national authorities, and so basically it exists on the since 1st of July last year. We are still assessing how this changed the environment. You know, the medicines are sell on internet. Of course, the idea was to reduce the access for criminals, but also try to help, you know, those they were authorized, they are doing, you know, right job. You know, other discussion, you know, how we can control internet and e-commerce this way, but we will assess this very soon and see the first results. So that the general principles, you can see them on the slide. Then of course the other big there's not one dot, but hundreds of dots, you know, depends to whom you speak. Patients registers, citizen registers, health registers. So since we understood there is such richness of this work, member states decided to form so-called joint action parent, and they established the guidelines for the registers, and you can see them on the website. And this is quite thick document with a number of recommendations, agreed recommendation by member states. And this was also part of this interoperability exercise. We wanted to help with this work. And finally, of course, it should help with a number of decisions we most probably discuss in our panel. But of course, you know, one of the areas is health technology assessment, but also in post-authorization process, because of conditional authorization, because of recommended by EMA authorization, new patients registers can be established. So by the way, in end of October, there will be discussion about the patients register in EMA in 2 days seminar. Important area, again, you know, other point for discussion. And finally, last 2 slides, this is again the infrastructure. This time, we are using money from so-called Connected Europe facility, which the money they were allocated to European Union and member states to help connect member states. And in this case, we are building facility allowing e-prescription and patient summary exchange. And we are very proud that finally 20 member states applied to this project, 16 already got funds, most probably 4, even 6 more will get funds next year. The process again is quite complex because again, easy to say build a portal, but it's also linked to the nomenclature, terminology server, languages, responsibility, data protections, providers roles, national contact points, and so on and so on. Again, complex project. The target is to allow those data move in coming 2 years. So hopefully in 2018 we will see the results of this work. It's based on the earlier projects financed by DG Connect, which were kind of piloting the number of issues. We also are using this money to build so-called infrastructure, IT infrastructure for European reference networks. And I can tell you, because yesterday I met with the leaders of these future networks, we have so far application 24 networks. Those networks are having in networks almost 1,000 university clinical centers, which is showing, the great potential for European cooperation. But again, there is a potential, but we need a good eye to use and so on. Let me finish with the question. So why and how we can connect those dots? I mean, we discussed already today morning, the problem between, how technologies advance, how policy is able to meet the challenges of technology, how providers are prepared for those challenges. And, when you put this in the kind of 3 or 4 dimensional space, I think the good question for our panel would be, can we connect those dots and how we can, using technology, depending on each other, make the system working better, of course, in the benefit of everybody who is interested. Thank you very much.